Science is on the brink of changing your life. Right now, men and women around the world are making amazing breakthroughs.
This is incredible.
Our team of leading scientists have chosen the discoveries they think matter most.
Whoa. An almost limitless supply of clean energy.
It's these which are the basis of one of the most important of all conservation enterprises.
From the car you'll drive to medical advances that could save your life.
This miracle means that we can replace surgery.
On a journey that spans the jungles of Africa.
And I'm here to join the hunt, to find one of the biggest threats to human survival.
To the quads of Oxford.
This is arguably the most complicated thing in the universe.
We will show you how science is a force for good. Prepare to see your future.
This is the beginning of that brave new world.
Tonight, we want to tell you how science is fighting to save our world. Finding new ways to create energy, clear pollution, prevent solar disasters, and preserve animal species in the 21st century Noah's Ark. These are the discoveries that could secure the future of our planet.
Recently, this elephant made headline news. She was being kept in horrific circumstances in a circus, but then she was rescued. And now, well, she's old and she's arthritic, but she's in much better, happier conditions here in Longleat Park. So how old is she?
Between 57 and 60 years old. I mean, elephants, you know, they've got the same kind of lifespan as we have. We think she's probably the oldest elephant in Europe.
Was she born in captivity?
No, she's actually from Sri Lanka. She was brought over, I think there was about 15 of them brought over from Sri Lanka back in the 50s, and she's the last surviving one.
Anne's health has improved immensely. She's safer here than an old elephant could ever be in the wild. I've been lucky enough during my life to spend quite some time watching and filming elephants, and I find it appalling to think that there might be a time coming when nobody will be able to see a wild elephant. But the fact of the matter is that these majestic, wonderful creatures are fast disappearing from the earth. Hello. Yes, hello.
It's a lot more solid, actually, on her foot.
And the cuticles are looking better as well. Great big chunks of that coming away, aren't they?
Steady.
That's great. Good girl.
OK, good girl.
A vet is now taking a blood sample from this lovely old creature. It will preserve genetic information that could last for hundreds, if not thousands, of years. It's all part of a project to save the genomes of our most endangered creatures, part of a project called the Frozen Ark. Once the blood is taken, it must be processed and refrigerated quickly before it starts to clot. Contained within every one of the thousands of blood cells here is the entire blueprint for this Asian elephant species.
Anne's a particularly interesting animal, in my opinion, just because she's an Asian elephant, she's endangered, but we know that she was wild caught in what was then Ceylon over 50 years ago, and so the genetic provenance, if you like, is extremely good.
She's good material.
Absolutely, I think she's fantastic. I mean, I think Asian elephants as a species are very important to the Ark and very unusual to come across an old elephant that was wild caught, and we know exactly where she came from. So,
well, she's a lovely animal.
Fascinating.
The sample is whisked to London and the frozen ark stores in the Natural History Museum. But as quickly as samples are collected, more species join the list of those in danger. Extinction is a natural process. 99% of the species that have ever lived on Earth are now extinct. But never before in the history of life has just one species been responsible for the extinction of so many others, or in such a short period of time. It was the threat of extinction that inspired the frozen ark. In the 1960s, Anne Clark went to the South Sea Islands to study snails. Over 30 years, she saw over 100 species disappear. So she set up this vital gene bank to tackle the problem. The frozen ark has started. What are your targets?
10,000 species or so are going to go extinct in the next 30 to 50 years. And so I suppose one could say that our targets are those 10,000. But we are starting with the most endangered groups, which are extinct in the wild.
Which I suppose is practical, but in an ideal world, we would ask biologists everywhere to do this tomorrow.
So we hope that this will become really a sort of last resort conservation effort.
If species extinction continues at its current rate, the work of the frozen ark will be even more critical. The only link future generations may have to our rich diversity could be DNA preserved in liquid nitrogen. And although science isn't yet capable of resurrecting an extinct species from frozen DNA, the possibility is not that remote. Deep in the basement of the museum, the Ark's biobanks await the next delivery. It's here that I add another vital sample. So now, the DNA from that lovely elephant is safely preserved here, where it will remain undamaged for centuries, if not thousands of years.
Our ever-growing population places great demands on the planet. But science is working to meet those demands. creating new ways to feed the world.
Like millions of farm animals around the world, these pigs exist for only one purpose: for us to eat them. Around the globe, human beings consume around 250 million tons of meat a year, and that could double by 2050. All this meat eating means livestock is quite literally taking over the planet. Currently, we use around a third of the world's land for livestock production.
We're exhausting our resources trying to produce meat, and it's only getting worse.
So imagine for a moment a world in which meat is produced without having to breed it, rear it, feed it, or kill it. A world in which meat is produced in tiny little plastic dishes. Science fiction? Maybe not.
I'm Mark Evans, and as a vet, I've done a lot of work on animal welfare. So the idea of lab-grown or in vitro meat is intriguing, and it's been around since the start of the last century. Winston Churchill boldly predicted in 1931 that science would soon be able to create a chicken breast without a chicken. And when we got into space, NASA pursued the idea of artificial meat as a way of feeding astronauts on long missions. Now it's scientists here in Holland who are leading the artificial meat revolution with nothing more than a few cells, collagen, and squares of Velcro. I'm meeting the man at the frontier of this new science, Dr. Mark Post, a specialist in tissue engineering at Maastricht University. The process of creating in vitro meat starts with a small biopsy taken from a live animal.
The cells are tiny and they need to grow out of these muscle cells, so you need to cut it first in very small pieces, then treat it with an enzyme so that the texture even becomes looser and you can let the cells grow out. These are the cells that if we have an injury of our muscle, will actually repair it. And that principle we use to grow muscle in the lab.
What you're doing is damaging the muscle fibre cells to start the stem cells doing their work, and they will then grow new muscle fibre cells out of the damaged one.
Exactly.
The cells are then cultured by adding them to a medium of nutrients, amino acids and lipids that kickstarts their growth. Each cell doubles every 18 hours, and after 2 weeks, the results are pretty impressive.
This dark outline here is the original muscle fibre cell.
Right.
And they've now divided into every one of these structures here. Right. is a separate cell?
Yeah. Right now we can make them to double 20 times, which means that one cell becomes 1 million cells.
Wow.
Right? And if we improve that, theoretically we can go up to 50 times or maybe even higher. And then you can create an enormous amount of cells from one single cell.
At this stage, though, the cells aren't formed together like meat. The next step in the process is to seed them in a collagen gel, which should cause the cells to organise into muscle fibre. Or that's the theory.
This Petri dish has just come out of the incubator at 37 degrees, and when it went in, each one of the 6 wells in it contained 1 million chaotically organised stem cells. I've been promised that there is now a dramatic change. So I'm on low power at the moment, but if you wind the power up, this is when it gets exciting. Wow, that is incredible. What's happened is that these chaotically organised cells have somehow managed to line themselves up. So they're kind of running parallel now, and they are starting to produce muscle fibre cells. Muscle that's been nowhere near a farm. It's been created by stem cells in a Petri dish.
It's not clear why the cells are organising themselves like this, but it seems to be with the way they bind to the collagen, similar to the way that fresh scar tissue shrinks.
That is really remarkable. It's definitely meat, but not as we know it.
This product could play a huge part in satisfying our hunger for more and more meat. That's if we actually eat it, of course.
These small pieces of tissue we can already make right now, as it has already an animal protein content that is 70%, which is more than the regular sausage that we buy. So this can be processed into processed meat.
Have you tried it?
I haven't tried it, but a Russian reporter who came by a couple of months ago tried it, and he confirmed that it doesn't taste like meat yet.
Are you not tempted to try it?
Not really. I mean, this whole process is still in a scientific phase, right? And these are experiments. And people work hard on getting scientific questions answered through these experiments. And then I'm going to eat it for no particular reason other than to satisfy my very simple, non-scientific curiosity of how does it taste.
But it's a critical factor, though, isn't it? This is going to go nowhere, and it'll just become a piece of scientific history unless actually that thing has the flavour, the texture, the taste the market demands.
There's very little known about what defines the taste of meat. So that's one of the scientific outcomes, if you wish, of this project, that we can step by step define what determines the taste of this meat product.
One way Dr. Post is looking at to improve taste is to add fat and iron. Another challenge he faces is bringing down the cost of production. It's still very expensive. But one wealthy American businessman has seen the potential and is investing in the next leap forward.
Next year, we are going to try and make a hamburger. And it's going to be €250,000 hamburger.
How confident are you that that's possible to get from here to a recognisable hamburger that presumably tastes like a hamburger in 12 months?
I'm reasonably confident. And apparently convincingly enough to get financing for it.
Scientists here in Holland seem pretty confident that sooner or later, possibly sooner, they will be able to grow burgers, sausages, even chops and steaks that are hard, if not impossible, to tell from the real thing. It may be controversial, but in vitro meat certainly has the potential to make the world a better, healthier place. And it could happen if billions of us can be tempted to eat it.
The challenges facing us often seem daunting. But science is constantly searching for ways to overcome them. Next, a story of how we may be closer than ever to creating a new source of energy. One that has the power of the stars.
Our modern world has a lust for energy. We're consuming more and more of it each year, and the amount we're gobbling up is due to double by 2050. We're burning our way through fossil fuels. Renewable energy looks like it's not going to fill the gap, and nuclear energy is once again under the spotlight after recent events in Japan. It all seems a bit hopeless. But as a physicist, I know there's an alternative. An almost limitless supply of clean energy, almost no pollution. Too good to be true? Well, I believe it's not that far off. Since the 1930s, we've been trying to unlock the hidden energy bound up in the nuclei of atoms. After the development of the atomic bomb, scientists worked to harness nuclear energy in a more controlled way.
A new landmark rises at Pleasanton. It is the nation's first privately financed and operated atomic power plant.
Just behind me is the site of one of the earliest nuclear power plants. It's decommissioned now, but when it operated, it was on exactly the same principles as every other nuclear power plant working today, and that's something called nuclear fission. Now, this is a tremendously brilliant source of energy, but it does have its drawbacks. It relies on burning heavy metals like uranium, which are in limited supply and won't last forever. And it produces dangerous radioactive waste that needs to be dealt with, or at least buried in the ground, for a very long time. And of course, if released, can be deadly. But there's another way of unlocking the energy trapped within the atom, and it's called nuclear fusion. Unlike in fission, where we split the nuclei of the very heaviest atoms, like uranium, in fusion, we combine the nuclei of the lightest atoms, like hydrogen. Now, this takes incredible temperatures and pressures, but when it works, it releases far more energy than we put in, much more even than in nuclear fission. And the thing is, it's going on above our heads every single day, because it's fusion that powers the sun. For decades, physicists have been trying to create controlled and sustained nuclear fusion.